Suzhou, one of the most modern and prosperous cities in China, but just beyond its skyline lies a different story. Villages, crumbling rooftops, aging brick walls, and boats gliding slowly along ancient canals. This isn't the China you see in headlines. It's another side of China, unhurried, enduring, quietly alive. Here, time flows like water, soft and slow, never rushing, never forcing, yet carving memory and meaning with quiet depth. These ancient water towns, scattered on the edge of the modern city, are not just relics of the past. They are a living thread in the cultural fabric of southern China, a reflection of ancient China in miniature, and a quiet continuation of a way of life uniquely rooted in this land.
你尝一个好吃的，都是紫霞。
我尝尝这个能吃吗？
能吃啊，
这能直接吃的是我尝一个啊。
好吃啊，吃啊。
嗯。
我炸了，我也不炸了。平的不好吃。
嗯，您就住这儿是吧？
哎，我就住这儿，我82岁了。
85岁啊。
你看我。
In daily life here, nothing seems extraordinary, and yet the most touching stories often hide in plain sight.
我住了35年了。
35年，炸这个，就在这里炸吗？
就在这炸。我4代人了。
4代人了。
4代人了，你看没有他大了。
4代人都在这炸鱼啊？4代人。
顺着开客房。
哦，在开客房。哦。
我炸饺子，我每天家炸饺子，都晒干了，露着，给我的晒了干了呢。干了，人家带回家，烧冬瓜汤。把这个刺剪掉，烧冬瓜汤。
煲点汤喝，让阿婆老给多盛一点。谢谢。
Deep in a quiet alley, for generations share the same roof, their days gently smoothed by the warmth of everyday life. And they're not alone. In towns like this, hundreds of families, each with their own quiet rhythm, form the living foundation that still holds this ancient town together. The boatman rowed slowly, her hands familiar with every bend of the canal, and with the quiet passage of time, these arching bridges have stood for 1,000 years. They've watched empires rise and fall, and seasons drift endlessly. Stone paths, worn smooth by countless footsteps, have been shaped inch by inch into what we see today. In the quiet corners of Suzhou, 23 ancient water towns lie scattered across the landscape. Some have been inhabited for over 2,500 years. Others began to take shape a millennium ago. Some once held palaces for emperors. Others were simple homes, passed down through generations. Poets paused for inspiration, merchants connecting distant corners of the world. Here, the prosperity of ancient China still lingers, one of the most graceful reflections of its cultural and economic golden age. To this day, people still live in these water towns. Their lives drift gently, steady, unhurried. This is a land shaped by rivers, nourished by lakes, and quietly upheld by a web of ancient waterways. This is Jiangnan, the soft, southern land beyond the Yangtze River, a place where water and mist have shaped not only the land, but the rhythm of life itself. Jiangnan, it feels like a scroll painting brought to life. Whitewashed walls and dark tiled roofs, unfolding in stillness. For over 2,000 years, life here has flowed with the water, generation after generation, anchored by its quiet rhythm. Jiangnan is more than scenery. It is a cultural foundation, a way of life sustained through centuries. To understand it fully, the story must begin with the land. Why is Jiangnan so rich in water? Because this lowland basin gathers an intricate web of rivers and lakes. Fed by the vast Yangtze River system, it holds one of the densest water networks in all of China. Water shaped the way people lived. It became both a road and a livelihood. Along these ancient waterways, towns slowly began to grow, each one rooted in the rhythms of the land. One of the oldest among them is Mudu, born by the water, built along its flow. It marks the very beginning of Jiangnan's story. Mudu began with a legend. Over 2,500 years ago, the king of Wu commissioned a palace atop the hill, a gift for his beloved. Massive logs were floated upstream, but the scale of the project was so vast that timber soon clogged the waterways. From this, a name emerged, Mudu, literally meaning wood blocking the river. A town born from royal ambition, it quietly took root by the water's edge, and over the centuries grew into one of Jiangnan's oldest river towns. More than 2,000 years later, this river-born town unexpectedly caught the attention of a Chinese emperor. From that moment, Mudu's story took a different turn. And so, what future awaits a town once touched by the hand of empire?
这个号称乾隆的民间行宫，你像刘墉啊、纪晓岚啊、和珅啊都在这儿住过。
In the mid-18th century, at the height of China's last imperial dynasty, Emperor Qianlong stopped here on each of his 6 southern tours. Parts of the town became royal lodgings and official stations where local governors awaited the emperor's arrival. The emperor's presence was brief, but for Mudu, it marked a turning point, a once ordinary town drawn into the orbit of empire. Yet the story didn't end there. Over a century later, as the imperial era drew to a close, a merchant in Mudu built a garden inspired by Jiangnan's charm. Within a single courtyard, he gathered the essence of nature. But power and wealth fade with time. Only ordinary life goes on, quiet and steady. The rice here is dark and glossy.
这是豆干。
对。
OK， 看着真棒。对。
猪蹄，要不要来一个？
猪蹄啊。
The taste of Mudu is much like its people, calm, unhurried, and deeply rooted. It lingers in everyday kitchens and narrow back streets, a gentle heat within the ordinary, softly woven into the rhythms of daily life. Today, Mudu is still a place where people live, not just among history, but within it. Here, people still follow the traditions passed down through generations. The old and the new live side by side, quietly and naturally. What was once touched by emperors is now part of how locals speak about their home. Mudu, shaped over centuries, is still here. Long after Mudu, Luzhi appeared, another riverside town shaped by the same lake region, yet with a story all its own. In the late 8th century, the digging of a man-made canal brought new life to the small riverside village of Fuli. By the end of the 9th century, the village of Fuli had begun to host local markets. Over the next few centuries, it grew into a small town. In the late 1500s, a stone statue was raised. A mythical beast called Lu, said to speak, travel great distances, and appear only in times of peace. Locals noticed the town's waterway, shaped like the character, Lu. They took it as a sign. The elders renamed the town Luzhi, a name for harmony and a future filled with hope. The streets and canals of Luzhi lie quietly intertwined like the veins of a water town. 41 ancient bridges arch their backs, carrying the weight of centuries in silence. For 1,000 years, the sound of oars has come and gone, and still Luzhi remains, passing down a way of life, generation by generation. Between the paddles and the ripples, it quietly preserves the cultural lifeblood of Jiangnan. Later still, in the year 1086, in a quiet corner of Jiangnan, a modest official named Zhou donated his own farmland to build a temple. In gratitude, the local people gave the place a new name, Zhouzhuang, the village of Zhou. True prosperity came more than 2 centuries later, when Shan Wanzan arrived in Zhouzhuang with his landowning father. At the time, the town sat at a vital crossroads, where rivers met roads, and trade flowed in all directions. From here, Shan built vast networks of commerce, and soon became one of the richest men in the region. Local legend tells of a magical treasure bowl in his home. Drop in a single golden hairpin, and it would return endless wealth. From then on, Zhouzhuang was no longer just a quiet water town. It became an important trading port in Jiangnan. Grain and silk were collected and shipped from here. Trading boats filled the canals. Bridges turned into streets. The town flourished. For centuries, Zhouzhuang has seen both quiet times and moments of change, but it has never lost its roots. If Zhouzhuang is known for its legend, then Jinxi is known for its sorrow, a love story that never left the water. According to local tradition, long ago, a royal consort named Lady Chen was relocated south during a time of unrest. Captivated by the beauty of Jinxi, she chose to stay and eventually passed away there. In grief, the emperor gave her a water burial. The town was renamed in her memory and kept that name for over 800 years, until it was restored to Jinxi in 1992. Bridges are the defining image of Jinxi. 36 of them connect streets and alleys, quietly holding the town together. There is little decoration, only the traces of daily life, left by generations living beside the water, like a book worn soft with time. Every corner of Jinxi holds a quiet story of people, water, and the life between them. Ancient towns in Jiangnan don't rush to keep up with the times. They simply hold on to a quiet, measured rhythm of their own. Jiangnan is more than just south of the Yangtze. It is a land shaped by rivers, nourished by lakes, and threaded with a quiet network of water, a place where the wind stays gentle and the rain never hurries. In its ancient towns, people live beside the water. For generations, life here has moved at its own pace, quietly keeping the warmth of time alive. On this land carried by water, a quiet elegance has been passed down, woven into daily routines and simple rituals. Life here doesn't call attention to itself, but it is real, and it is warm.
老板还有饭吗？
有。
要一份那个Luzhi汤包。
The beauty of Suzhou's water towns lies not only in their scenery, but in the way they carry a way of life and a spirit that has lasted for centuries. This is the other China, one that lives gently, moves slowly, and carries the past forward, one oarstroke at a time. The lifestyle of Jiangnan deserves to be seen and remembered.